Okay, it is May 5th, 2026, and I'm going to chat about interest rates for a little bit. Fun topic. Love it. It's a blast. From that standpoint, I did a prediction video at the beginning of the year where I said that there's going to be a lot of pressure on rates to remain elevated, and it's going to not take a lot of, negative situations to cause rates to kind of rebound. I've been speaking that to realtors, to clients, to anyone who has an ear and wants to, have an interest in what's going on with interest rates in the financial markets, so on and so forth. And I keep reading that in the tea leaves that I am not a big believer that rates are going to be below six in a significant manner anytime in the near future. There's a slight chance that, maybe at some point this year we see a five in front of a 30-year fixed again from the standpoint of like your average lender, top tier financing, run of the mill rates, right? Not outlier discount brokerages that, are advertising really low rates and doing weird things to try to, pull you in the door type of thing, right? So we're talking real rates available from good, qualified, professional lenders and banks and so on and so forth, right? I don't see the situation in Iran getting any better anytime sooner. Even if it does get better sooner, the ripple of what that's going to do economically to supply chain and oil and things of that nature, and the thought of, what are, you know, is there going to be inflation from this? What's going to happen? How long is the peace going to be? It's just going to cause too many questions, right? And questions create uncertainty. Uncertainty creates instability. Instability is not good for interest rates, either side of the coin, right? It's just not. It makes the investment not attractive to a degree or another, and it makes both things not attractive. It makes equities not attractive. It makes mortgage bonds not attractive. When there's geopolitical instability that America's involved in, then we aren't the world safety net for value, right? So, world safety net for value is situations like Brexit in 2016 in Europe. Again, that was not a geopolitical violent conflict. That was just an economic conflict. And what that did was that caused a lot of money to flow into our bond market. And we had really low rates. We already had low rates, right? We already had inorganically low rates. Anytime interest rates are below five, you have inorganic rates, right? Like that's just not a real rate available. It just doesn't make sense with the velocity of money, how money works, how wages grow, how, inflation works, and just how our system functions. If you look at only one barometer and you take that one piece, that one metric, and you put it in front of a financial analyst, right, an economic analyst, and let's use the 30-year fix. If I sit down in front of an economic guru and just say, hey, I'm going to show you a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, and you tell me, based on just this piece of information, give me an idea of where you think the economy is relevant to the offered 30-year fixed rate, right? And I use a heat map here. Anything between five and eight, you could almost say your economy's probably okay. It's probably normal. Maybe there's some stuff happening, but between five and eight, if the 30-year fixed is seven, six, five and a half, seven and a half, eight, like it all sounds high, right? Again, because relevant to the past 15 years before all of this. If you only looked at that piece and then you tried to extrapolate out, right? You try to look at that and then go out to go, okay, what else is going on that's causing that? The 10-year treasury is probably slightly higher, right? That means that, prime rate's probably slightly higher. That means that there's, good savings accounts that you can put money in the bank and get money back from a bank. Imagine that. Because when rates were really low for a 30-year fix, below four, you put your money in the bank and it didn't find any buddies, right? Like it didn't make any friends. It's like, hey, here's $20. And the bank's like, cool, here's half a penny, right? Like you didn't get any interest for your money in the bank. So it didn't make sense to have money in the bank. So you put money in stocks, right? Or you just don't put money in the bank. There's no incentive. So if rates are too low, you lose that. So again, just looking at that one piece, 5 to 8 is probably a decently healthy economy, hopefully. Above 8 starts to pose some questions. You go, why are rates elevated? If rates are 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, right? Then it's like, okay, what happened that rates are so high? Is there a lot of inflation? Is there massive weird instability in some sector that's just causing, credit to be very expensive? Like what's going on here? What's the stranglehold that's causing money to be so expensive that's just pulling money out of the system, right? Because when interest goes out of the system, when you pay interest, like I joke with clients that yeah, you pay interest as a repercussion of the fact that you needed debt, right? But it's tangibly money that you pay for outside of needing debt that you get nothing for in return. You get the debt, right? You get debt, you pay interest for the debt, but you don't get anything for it, right? Like it's not like, hey, I bought the house, I paid money for the house, I get something, I get the house, right? Interest on debt is just money that's gone, right? And your benefit is you got the debt. So if interest rates are incredibly elevated, then there's some stranglehold happening financially that would cause that repercussion to go, hey, giving someone debt is a big risk for whatever reason, and we need a lot of money to get that back, right? Like it's not good. It wouldn't be good from that standpoint, right? Particularly because of what a mortgage is, and as an investment, and as the flow of money goes from stocks to, government bonds to mortgage bonds to other investments, right? Like there's a ripple there that these things play a tug of war with each other as money kind of flows through our markets, if that makes sense. So if interest rates are really elevated, the economy guru, again, just only looking at one piece of data point, would have a lot of questions as to what weird negative thing happened there in that realm, right? Now, going on the other side of that coin, if interest rates are well below 5, 4, 3, 2, right? Put that in front of an economic guru and they almost say the same thing and go, what catastrophe happened? Right? Why is money so cheap? Is there labor problems? Are we in such a maybe a such a good place that money can be cheap, but that's not usually the case because again, just the way that our system works, the velocity of money, it's not a good thing if debt is incredibly low, right? From that standpoint. If debt coverage is incredibly low, it means there's less return in your savings account, right? Because there's just less flow of that money going that way. So it just causes some other questions to go like, what negative thing happened? And now if you look at it from that angle and go, okay, if that's the three like placeholders for interest rates, like 5 or below, not good. 8 or above, not good. 5 to 8, we probably have an okay economy, right? Like, I don't think there's ever a perfect economy, right? A perfect economy means everyone's good. Everyone has money. Everyone's eating. Everyone has a house. Sounds amazing. Would love that to be a reality. Probably never will happen just because we're human and humans are flawed and humans are going to make flawed decisions. And you can't we can't fix the world for people that make flawed decisions. We can help, we can try, but it's just probably never going to be perfect. So there's never a perfect economy. There's good economies, okay economies, manageable economies where the numbers make sense, the data is good, most people are working, most people are making enough money, there's savings in the banks, right? Like there's good things happening for the most part. Never going to fix every corner of the economy and every corner of life, but let's assume that most of it's good. Interest rates between 5 and 8, above 8, something's happening that debt is causing some sort form of like restriction. For some reason, there was some pain. Interest rates below 5, there was some pain, but in some other direction in the sense that now we need growth, right? We need stimulus. We need money flowing through the economy. We don't need interest pulling money out of the economy. We need money in people's pockets and we need people spending money. So that creates jobs and so on and so forth, right? Now, understanding that tug of war of finances and again, viewing it only from the barometer of the 30-year fixed, and then drilling it down to what might rates do. And this is where I go with my clients in terms of timeline. I never really try to I like to guess and speculate, but I like to guess and speculate based on cause and effect, not correlation and timing. So cause and effect in terms of like where are rates now? What would cause rates to be lower, right? What would cause rates to be higher? What would cause rates to stay the same, right? I don't know when any of the causes could happen and or if they will happen. That's the part where I don't think trying to gamble. I'm like, oh, rates are going to be this in 6 months, right? Like I do those videos, I chat about that. I look at it from that angle because I think it's prudent for me to have the good tools and mind and wherewithal to help clients make the decision to kind of just pull the band-aid off and say, buy a house that you can afford and understand that the interest rate is just a piece of the market today. And how do we structure your deal so that you're happy in your house, right? Let's not try to over bake the cookie and think we're going to guess what rates you're going to do next year, 6 years, a month from now, or whatever, and try to, right? Because if we start doing that, it's really easy to get off the rails. So when it comes down to actually having conversations with clients, I try to understand what causes rates to do what, so I can actually help give a clear mind around making the right decision in the moment you're in today when you're buying a house and or refinancing. It's not to try to guess what rates you're going to do perfectly and go, "Hey, do this because rates are going to do that." Right? Because that's a slippery slope. So, in terms of like what would bring rates down this year, cause and effect. We would need Iran situation to be gone, right? Like that would have to be over. We'd have to have peace. Oil would have to go back down to at least $80 a barrel for WTI, right? Maybe Brent. It would have to at least go down somewhat close to where it was prior to the conflict. It doesn't need to go to 65 where it was before the conflict, but it needs to start flirting in that direction, mostly to just remove some fear of what supply chain disruption, like the market can absorb a little bit of that cost equation without it rippling into like that's just business. Supply chain costs is a little bit of an elastic band for a lot of business for the most part. Like the last thing you want to do is constantly be changing your prices based on, micro movements in a market of costs of, logistics, right? So like how awful would that be if blueberries were a different price every day based on gas, right? That just wouldn't be fun. If your Uber was a different, I guess that kind of applies. They do change their price and surcharge, but and we don't like that. I'm not a fan of it. So from that standpoint, typically, if there's a golden rule for a business, is that you have your pricing structured so that you can accommodate logistic tug of war to a degree or another, right? And, it's only bad if that tug of war goes in one direction or the other too crazy, right? Like situation of like barrel of oil goes to $200 a barrel, that's going to cause supply chain disruption, right? That's too much pressure on that piece of the metric in the supply chain to eventually cause prices at the consumer level to be higher, right? Now, what would cause rates to go down again? That would have to be gone, oil down. We'd have to head in the right direction with inflation still, and we'd have to start showing signs of some negative momentum in the labor market, which is like not something that I would want to happen, right? So like to say like, oh, how are we going to get interest rates at 5% this year? Right now they're at like 6.5, right? Maybe even closer to 7. How are we going to get them down to 5, right? It's going to be something really bad happens. That's not good. That's, oh, unemployment's ticking up and this is happening. Now the government needs to get intervened to start quantifying, quantitative easing to manipulate down interest rates. Again, rates below 6, for the most part, below 5.5 are inorganic. Or inorganic. Inorganic interest rates mean that our government's getting involved to manipulate down interest rates to cause stimulus momentum in the direction of growth. So we don't get low interest rates unless something bad is happening to our economy. So the cause to get low rates isn't going to be a good thing. If our economy is doing good, it's going to be really hard for rates to be below 5.5. It's going to be incredibly difficult. if our economy is doing good and unemployment's low, wages are high, all things we want as a people, if you want negative because you don't like Trump or you don't like this person, then shame on you, frankly. But what we want, regardless of whoever's in, is most people working in jobs that they like, that pay well, and they can afford to pay for things. I know that the tug of war is, well, affordability and rates and so on and so forth. Interest rates being down actually causes the opposite. Look at home prices now. What caused home prices to be high now is incredibly low interest rates for far too long, right? So you need to have that right understanding if you're gonna start complaining about interest rates and where they are, because we don't want rates to be, now they're great if you already own a home and you can refinance, spectacular. But that's not good for everyone, right? So like the tug of war is what's going to cause rates to be lower. We need some peace, and maybe we get to the low sixes, which I think honestly, high fives, low sixes is better for the market than if we're in the low fives, high fours, right? Low fives, high fours, I'm worried something negative happened. And also don't want to see, again, for this cycle, I don't want to see seven, 7.5. That means something bad's happening, right? Inflation is spiking again, right? And now affordability is getting even worse, right? So like that, and then now rates are higher to try to curb down affordability, right? So it's a tug of war. It's going to keep going that way for a while here until something drastic happens in one direction or another, or we have stability for so long and everything is good for so long that that you know uncertainty can leave the market, or that fear, and supply chains can flatten and the market can be flat for a little while and kind of find its bearing, and then maybe we see organic interest rates in the mid fives, maybe, right? So like that's my big thing is don't buy a home hoping to refinance, right? Make the right decision, buy a house you can afford. Don't worry about what rates you're going to do in the future, because you should worry about what you're signing up for today. And if you don't worry about what rates are doing in the future and you worry about what you're signing up for today, it brings you to the present moment and it allows you to make a confident decision. If you're thinking about what rates are going to do in the future relevant to the house you're buying today, it'll make it harder for you to make the right choice today and understand what you can do and what you're willing to do in regards to real estate. And it will hurt you and maybe even cost you more money because maybe you don't buy something and you keep renting and you keep worrying about it and you keep spiraling down that road. Just don't do it. Focus on today. Focus on what rates are doing today. Make a good decision today. Don't be afraid of discount points. Don't worry about what the TikTok influencer said about what rates are going to do and the market's going to crash and this is going to shut all those people off. That includes me. Talk to nuanced advisors that are familiar with your situation and can help you make a good decision.